live debate. IntelligenceSquared.com.
I think that it's clear that a lot has gone wrong in Afghanistan, and the account which Claire has just given you is a very good account, and I think there's a great deal in it which is very useful. You notice she was very concrete, but I disagree fundamentally with her vision of Afghanistan because, to go back to the beginning of her speech, I think she underestimates the intractability of that country. What do I mean by that? I mean this country is the third or fourth poorest country in the world. This is a country that you could invest in for 20 years and you'd be lucky to get its police, its military, its civil service, its courts to the level of Pakistan. And yes, indeed, Afghanistan has resources, but it's a country in which 75 or 80% of the population cannot read or write, where there is no basic infrastructure, where there has been 30 years of war. But to add to the problems of Afghanistan, the problem is not just them, as it were, not just Afghanistan, but us. Because I think Claire is also overly optimistic about the ability of the international community to sort its act out and solve those kinds of problems in somebody else's country. In the United States, frequently, I try to explain that when we look at domestic situations, we're much more realistic than when we go abroad. We understand that these problems are complex, rooted in a whole social and economic climate, not to be resolved through trick, whim, or theory. Afghanistan is more difficult 100-fold. This is a country at the other end of the world with a very bad security situation, where most of us around this table do not speak Afghan languages fluently, where we lack power, where we lack knowledge, where we lack legitimacy. And this is also, I believe, the problem with Field Marshal Lord Inge's analysis. He too seems to believe that through better coordination, through improvements on NATO mechanisms, we would be able to turn this situation radically around and achieve stability. So the question is therefore Matthew Parris right? He's right to point to the surreal gap between our rhetoric and reality. Our rhetoric, frankly, is incomprehensible. I don't understand a lot of what we talk about. 7 years into this engagement, and we're spending about $45 billion a year at the moment. We still talk governance, economic development, security, about a comprehensive solution, talk about hearts and minds, we talk about a regional approach, and we never spell it out. We don't know what this actually means in practice. Nevertheless, Matthew is wrong. He stands before you and says he may be a generation too early, but he envisages a time when Britain will say, regardless of whether we can help or not, this is none of our business. There is an approach we can take in Afghanistan and steps we can take, but we must have a light footprint. We should not have increased troops from 20,000 to 71,000. We should not be aiming to spend $145 billion a year over the next 10 years. We need an approach which is light, because a light footprint is a more sustainable footprint. We need an approach which is light because we need to be able to afford it, to afford an enduring, patient relationship. We need a light relationship because, as Matthew pointed out, Afghanistan is not our only priority in the world. Nevertheless, if we can do much less than we pretend, we can do much more than we fear. You don't have a moral responsibility to do what you cannot do. Nevertheless, if we cannot do as much as these people pretend, we can do much more than we fear, and this false prophet is, for all our sakes in Britain, to be rejected. Thank you all very much indeed.